Could you imagine getting on a train in Madrid and getting off in Casablanca? Or how about jumping in your car and driving from Europe to Africa in less than 30 minutes? Well, if Spain and Morocco had their way, that might be possible. They want to build an ambitious crossing over or under the Strait of Gibraltar by the beginning of the next decade. Hey, I'm your host Regis, and in this video, we'll explore the possibility of building a bridge or a tunnel between Europe and Africa, and why the 2030 World Cup could be the spark that sets everything in motion. The Strait of Gibraltar lies where the Mediterranean Sea meets the Atlantic Ocean. It's the only way that ships can get directly from the Atlantic to the Mediterranean, and it's also part of a shortcut between the Atlantic and the Indian Ocean. Ships travel through the strait, along the Med, and then to the Indian Ocean via the Suez Canal. The alternatives are a long trip around Africa or an even longer one across the Pacific. As a result, more than 65,000 ships sail through the passage every year. Because of its strategic importance, the countries around the strait and some further afield have tried their best to claim the route as their own. From 1610 onward, Spain had control for most of the time. For 300 years, anyone sailing through had to identify who they were by flying their country's flag or face a volley of cannon fire. One of the ways that Spain managed to control the route entirely was by having a presence on both coastlines. Even today, a tiny Spanish territory called Ceuta exists at the most easterly point of the African side. Even so, not all of the European side belongs to Spain. Opposite Ceuta on the European side is the Rock of Gibraltar, a small outcrop that gives the strait its name. You might know it best from videos of its mischievous Barbary macaques that terrorize tourists. Those monkeys and the rest of the Rock of Gibraltar are a British overseas territory, so part of the United Kingdom, and have been since a treaty was signed back in 1713. Treaty or not, Spain has never recognized Britain's sovereignty over Gibraltar, and they'd like it back. The jury's still out on whether or not they want the monkeys along with the rock. In 1907, France invaded Morocco, but they'd made a deal with Britain and Spain 3 years earlier, promising not to build any new fortifications on their side of the passage. After Morocco gained independence in 1956, it took control of most of the southern half of the strait, though not the area around Ceuta. So now, control of the strait is split between Morocco, Spain, and the United Kingdom. But it's not only access to the Atlantic that makes the Strait of Gibraltar important. At just over 14 kilometers at the narrowest point, it's also the shortest route from Africa to Europe and vice versa. Of the 65,000 vessels that pass through the straits annually, 30,000 cross that narrow passage between Spain and Morocco, carrying millions of passengers and more than 13 million cargo containers. With all those watercraft heading east to west, and those going from shore to shore, it's not surprising that the strait is one of the most crowded sea routes in the world. Now, you might think that that makes it dangerous, but it is not. They have a range of systems to ensure safety, including patrol boats and watch stations. But even so, a lot of traffic is moving over the strait, and the ships are slow, expensive, and bad for the environment. That's why, for some time now, the people on both sides have wondered if it might be better to build a permanent crossing. Okay, so how would they even go about doing this? The first consideration would be to build a bridge, and if they did that, it wouldn't be the very first long bridge built across the sea. For example, Hong Kong's 55-kilometer Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau bridge is much longer than you'd need to cross the Strait of Gibraltar. But there are a couple of problems that make a bridge in this location much more difficult. A bridge across the Strait of Gibraltar has to put up with high winds. The climate in the Strait of Gibraltar is governed by two winds, the Levante and Poniente, that run east to west or west to east depending on the season. Now, these winds often reach about 72 kilometers per hour, and that could make a crossing pretty scary. Now, some bridges already deal with gusts higher than that. For example, France's Millau Viaduct doesn't shut down for traffic until wind speeds reach 110 kilometers per hour. So perhaps that would even work. The real problem with a bridge across the strait isn't the distance or the wind. It's the height, or should we say, the depth. Before we dive into the construction of the Gibraltar Bridge, we quickly want to thank our long-term partner CyberGhost VPN for sponsoring this video. With over 38 million users worldwide, it's one of the most trusted VPNs out there, and it's got a near-perfect rating on Trustpilot, with more than 20,000 people rating it as excellent. A VPN is essential for protecting your digital privacy, and if you think you're already covered because you browse in incognito mode, well, think again. Plenty of eyes are watching you every time you go online, and incognito mode really only gives you a false sense of privacy. Your internet service provider, your school or work's IT department, even your own home Wi-Fi router, they can all track what you do online. And that's where CyberGhost VPN comes in. Just turn on CyberGhost VPN before you browse, and it encrypts and reroutes 100% of your traffic through their secure servers, so no one will even know about your online activity. It's all really simple, and CyberGhost already has servers in over 100 countries to cater to your every need. CyberGhost also unlocks geo-restricted content from over 40 streaming platforms, like Netflix, Amazon Prime, and Disney+. You can even score better deals online or unlock games that are blocked in your region by simply changing your virtual location. CyberGhost works on all major devices and operating systems: Windows, Mac OS, Android, iOS, and you can protect up to 7 devices at the same time. Perfect for sharing with friends and family. And don't worry, they don't keep any logs of what you do online. Even they don't know. With our link, cyberghostvpn.com/megabuilds, you get their best deal ever. Just $2.03 a month, plus 4 months free, which is a whopping 84% off. There's even a 45-day money-back guarantee, so you literally have nothing to lose. Thanks again to CyberGhost VPN, and now let's find out why building the Gibraltar Bridge is such a big challenge. The average depth of the strait is 365 meters, and in some spots it's as deep as 900 meters. Then you'll need enough room for some of the largest ships in the world to pass underneath, so the bridge needs to be even taller. Building a bridge pillar at such depths underwater is just not realistic yet. The water pressure down there is no joke. At that depth, it's around 30 times what you'd feel at sea level, putting extreme stress on anything built to withstand it. Then there's the issue of strong currents and tides, which would be constantly scouring the seabed, making it tricky to keep any structure stable over time. And if human divers can't safely reach that depth, then robots would be needed to handle everything from drilling to securing the foundation. Right now, the deepest bridge foundation in the world is the Akashi Kaikyo Bridge in Japan, which goes 60 meters underwater. Over 300 meters would be a whole new level of difficulty. Now, even if this wasn't a problem, they'd still have the seabed to contend with. Surveys have shown it to be far from even with underwater mountain ranges, valleys, and mud volcanoes. Ugh. And then there's the chance that the ground could just move. The bridge would have to account for the Earth's tectonic plates. The African plate has been moving into the European plate at 1 inch every 2.5 years, right where they want to build. Now, these challenges haven't stopped people from putting ideas forward. In 1996, a brilliant structural engineer named Professor Tongyun Lin suggested a bridge between Port Oliveros and Point Cirrus. It's the same man who once proposed a bridge across the Bering Strait from Russia to the United States. His Gibraltar Bridge would have been 14 kilometers long, with insane 910-meter tall towers. That would be by far the biggest bridge ever built. Such an insane plan was obviously meant more as an inspiring vision than an actual idea, as this just pushes the limits of what's even considered achievable. So if a bridge seems impossible, why don't we take a look at a more realistic method? How about an intercontinental tunnel? It was way back in 1930 when Spain first suggested building a tunnel, but the rock underneath the strait was too hard for the technology at the time. Undeterred, they suggested fastening a prefabricated concrete tunnel with cables to the seafloor. That idea was dropped probably because of the complex mountainous seabed and the powerful currents that rush through the strait. The tunnel idea was taken seriously again though in 2008. The plan was to build a rail tunnel that's 27 kilometers long and 475 meters deep between Tarifa in Spain and Tangier in Morocco. But the design had all the same problems a bridge had, like the uneven landscape at the seabed and the shifting tectonic plates. It also had the same depth issue, though down instead of up. Depth wasn't a massive problem for the Channel Tunnel, but the English Channel is only 174 meters deep, and the seafloor is pretty uniform. The 2008 tunnel would have been nearly 3 times deeper than that and cut through potentially unstable rock. Deeper and much longer tunnels like the Gotthard Base Tunnel in Switzerland have been built. That one is 57 kilometers long and 2.3 kilometers deep, so much longer and deeper than any Strait of Gibraltar tunnel would need to be, even if they dug through the deepest point. But we have to note that the Gotthard Base Tunnel passes under stable mountains, not the sea at a plate boundary. In the end, the plan was shelved because it was thought to be almost impossible. But then, on October 4th, 2023, Morocco, Spain, and Portugal won the competition to host the 2030 FIFA World Cup. That's reawakened the tunnel idea, and Spain and Morocco seem at least willing to give it a try. Right now, the Moroccan National Company for Strait Studies, or SNED for short, is carrying out a feasibility study. And Spain has been doing the same since 2023, via the Spanish Society for Fixed Communication Studies across the Strait of Gibraltar. So what initially sounded like a hypothetical idea is actually being examined more closely, and could one day become a reality. So the new plan is to build a single rail tunnel from Madrid in Spain to Casablanca in Morocco, heading under the strait between Punta Paloma and Punta Malabada. The new tunnel would be about the same depth as the 2008 plan, but a lot longer at 42 kilometers. Now, that's still shorter than the Gotthard Base Tunnel, so it's not impossible. As for the cost, recent estimates have put that at somewhere between $6 and $10.5 billion. By contrast, the Channel Tunnel cost $14.5 billion, which is roughly $28.5 billion in today's money. So surprisingly, the current estimate for the Gibraltar Tunnel is a lot less. But we also know that these estimates are often not very realistic. If you've watched any MegaBuilds video, you know that's true. Like the Channel Tunnel, the two countries plan to share the costs by borrowing from European and African lenders. It makes financial sense because the new route is predicted to carry 12.8 million passengers between Europe and Africa every year. And it'll also boost the economies at both ends. Not only will the construction create jobs, but it'll also increase trade between the entire European Union, North Africa, and beyond. Morocco and Spain hope that it'll be built and operational before the first game of the tournament kicks off in June 2030. But in our opinion, that seems very unlikely. As of this video, there's no solid start date or even a deadline, but hey, you never know. A World Cup can be a powerful incentive, especially in the football-obsessed Iberian Peninsula. But what do you think about the idea of a Strait of Gibraltar crossing? Do you think at some point in time this will actually exist, or is it just never gonna happen? Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you want to try CyberGhost VPN, make sure to use our link in the description. CyberGhost VPN will protect your data while you browse and give you full access to all blocked content on the internet. It's a great VPN just like their current deal for $2.03 a month and 45 days money back guaranteed, so it's totally risk-free. As always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.